honestly, I'm going to ramble for a few moments about the Battlefield series. I really enjoyed, past tense, the Battlefield series back, is it 2001? With Battlefield 1942. I enjoyed it for several reasons, some of them probably accidental. When Battlefield 1942 first came out, it was 64 players per server, which I remember at the time was strange to me, relatively new. The only thing that I'd seen that was somewhat similar were the games called Tribes and Tribes 2. And so all of a sudden the scale of it was something different. Because it was so large, because there were so many moving parts, not just a player count, but also vehicles in there. You know, the tanks, the planes, the infantry. There were so many different variables. It meant that the gameplay always felt fresh. This was combined with the fact that you had conquest points on the map. Now, that's a minor thing. It's a very minor thing. It might not sound like much. Who cares? What's the point that you capture? But here's the important part. It can't move. A conquest point cannot move, which means that the map design will heavily influence exactly what you have to do as players to take a conquest point. And if the map designers are smart, they make it so that each conquest point is slightly different, with different challenges involved. Maybe this one is in the open because it's El Alamein or whatever. And then as you progress further, maybe it goes into like a town area, so it's more urban. Maybe this one is a runway, so oh god, it's super duper open and the snipers have a field day. For years I was trying to figure out what exactly is it? What is it about the vehicles that make them so much fun? And initially I thought it was like a rock, paper, scissors situation where tank is good against infantry and then infantry's good against whatever, taking conquest points or whatever. But what I realised over time, playing lots and lots of Battlefield games one after the other, is that in reality what it's doing is you've got these layers. Basically, everyone's fighting their own separate game of Battlefield depending on what sort of vehicle you're in, essentially. The tanks are fighting for dominance against the other tanks. The aircraft are fighting for dominance against the other aircraft, obviously. Infantry are fighting other infantry, mostly. Sure, there are times where you're not doing that, such as anti-tank are attacking tanks, but for the most part, you're pushing and pulling against a peer force on the other side, 32 players versus 32. Now, crucially, both sides are equal, and they're pushing back. So let's say there's 5 different games that are essentially underway. Infantry versus infantry, tanks v tanks, planes v planes. I would put snipers in their own category, so snipers are sniping other snipers. But what happens in a Battlefield game when you've just defeated the other side's layer? What happens if you're a tank, and you've just defeated all other tanks in your immediate vicinity? What do? Well, you turn to shoot infantry. That stops becoming a peer-to-peer fight and becomes what I've dubbed your prey layer. The tank's prey layer, infantry. The planes, their prey layer, well, it depends on the game, of course, but normally tanks. Infantry, well, they're normally a bit of a special case, but infantry are generally, in some cases, if you've got static defenses, their prey becomes aircraft, provided, again, it's very, very situational. Essentially, my point is, one of the variables in a Battlefield game that makes it so fun is the fact that it's peer-to-peer, equal footing, and then when it's not, that's when the killing starts. When a tank layer is dominating, that's when they get to focus entirely on killing infantry. At least until someone is able to get into your own tanks, drive back into battle, and start fighting, for control again. Battlefield 2142 became interesting because it is, to my mind, I might be mistaken in this, of course, it was the first time in the series where they started alternating the prey layers. For example, they introduced the Walker, who struggles to attack other walkers. Their entire goal is to battle infantry. They shred infantry. They generally suck at taking on other mechs. So it had this cool element of you could see them messing with the base design, with new vehicle types and that sort of stuff. So combination of high player count meets vehicles meets conquest points that do different things resulted in a type of game that was extremely variable. And it also meant that because you had so many people, you didn't get that same problem that you had in other multiplayer games when, let's say for example, you drop into Unreal Tournament, there's always going to be one piece of shit who's just fucking caning. There's one guy who's got so many hours in the game that he's basically playing a different game to everyone else. But with 64 people, there's a fair chance that he's going to bump into another guy on the other side who's going to be his hard counter. Like a guy with 1,000 hours in Battlefield can only shoot so many noobs before he suddenly locks head with me, and I fucking shoot the shit out of him, because I too had a shit ton of hours in Battlefield. You know what I mean? So all of that made for a very fun game experience. Obviously that's been eroded away over time through many different elements, including EA's idiocy. But that formula is potent, and you can see it carried over to something like Rising Storm, for example. Many of the things I just explained there, maybe with the exception of the vehicles, are quite effortlessly carried over to Rising Storm. The trouble is, though, the industry in general, probably to try and distinguish themselves from Battlefield, started doing like the Project Reality thing, making the combat slower and more tactical, I suppose, with things like Squad and Postscriptum, is that it? Which I don't think really works as well. Having so many different moving parts and having them move quickly is I suppose is like a lubricant for the gameplay and the fun of it. Slowing it down, you're just putting in waiting, and I just find that frustrating. Like if you have to sit there and wait for a medic, wait for an FOB, wait for the vehicle to spawn, it's like, oh my god. But yeah, watching the evolution of Battlefield games over time is interesting, but I must admit the series kind of lost me. It was Battlefield 4 that lost me. I thought, this is a piece of shit. And EA's super greedy. It's not worth it anymore. Battlefield 4 was fun? Oh god, you must have played a different Battlefield 4 than I played. I remember Battlefield 4 as an absolute nightmarishly buggy piece of shit that was released completely unplayable for about a year. It was essentially recycling many of the mechanics from Battlefield 3. It was like Battlefield 3.5, fixing none of the issues, installing, basically, what was it, taking the battle log? So taking away the game's main menu and putting in that battle log system with web pages and plugins, which I was like, ugh, what is this about? Almost felt like, okay, we're trying to just harvest data or whatever. And, what else was there? There was a whole bunch of problems with it. Like, they kept like trying to force like unlocks and ribbons and points that would pop up on the screen all the fucking time. Like the game had ADH fucking D. Disappearance of private servers is a suicidal move for the series. Oh really? They did that? Oh yeah, that's fucking stupid. Yeah, never do that. Never go Sea of Thieves. Never do that. Oh no, am I getting shot at? Oh no, are those other players? I think they are. I really hope that they can't use voice activation. Must admit, not interested in playing with other players. Hang on. Yeah, I imagine there'd be quite a thirst for a sort of adventure type, get your mates together, can't be bothered to deal with randos. Never try to snatch control away from your customers and insist that, no, you play it the way we want to. No, fuck you. No, we play it the way we want to. We're the customers. We should decide, not you. No, that annoys me. This weird flip-flopping where the devs or the publishers insist on the control. That's not how this relationship is supposed to work. We pay you for the thing, you give us the thing. We're not paying you to attend your theme park. It's not just about making a community server. It's about making a community server that you can police. Making a big matchmaking service and then just not putting in admins at all and is just washing your hands of the problem and pretending it doesn't exist. And then everyone's surprised when you've got just shit show Xbox, it's like a shit show, like Xbox kiddies screaming down their microphones because there's no fucking chlorine for this gene pool. Yeah, you need community servers because communities are going to produce admins who will administrate the servers. Exactly, pretending it doesn't exist is cheaper, and that's the problem. It benefits them, it doesn't benefit us. Anyway, sorry, going back onto the positive rather than the negative while I just waffle about Battlefield, the most fun experience I ever had playing Battlefield was actually the Battlefield 2142 initial launch. So it's beta, I believe it is. The reason for that is that Battlefield 1942 introduced this new element where all of a sudden the sort of trumpeted dun 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 like fist bumping soundtrack from 1942 was gone, and it was replaced with this like mourning French horn, because the game was about an ice age overtaking the world. Like, you weren't fighting for territory for the sake of conquest, the crux of the law was that you were fighting over farmland, because most of the world is going to starve to death. You were fighting over genetically engineered crop facilities and farmland because there's just not enough food to feed the people left. Listen to this. Compare and contrast. This is the theme for Battlefield 1942. You ready? So that would be playing on the intro screen the moment you get into the game. That sets your tone. That's why something like the battle log is so shit. Because if you don't have that opening, not necessarily the intro, but just the main menu, that's sort of hyping you up, I suppose, you won't, in my opinion, get into the correct sort of mindset that encompasses the game. This is Battlefield 2's main menu music. Yeah, okay, a little bit porn music-y. Now that you mention it, I can hear it. But it's groovy, isn't it? It's sort of like, the first one was like, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, like action-packed. This one's a bit more groovy. This, and this is why I'm doing this is 2142. The point that I'm trying to make is that it was a sudden, hard, change of direction, I suppose, for the series. Like, the prior ones had always been, like, action-y, and this one suddenly got dark and moody and suspenseful. The maps that you were fighting on, again, were things like agricultural facilities. There was one level that took place in this like checkpoint. It was a border checkpoint, and you realize that you were just literally fighting over, like, the refugee camp where people are coming in desperate for food. It was like, yeah, Battlefield depression, I guess. Anyway, because you were playing on the early access beta, or whatever it was called, there were no unlocks. You only had the vanilla weapons, and here's the cool bit. Grenades were not a vanilla weapon. You had to unlock them. All of a sudden, everyone was taking cover. You had people getting behind crates, getting behind, like, barriers that could stop bullets. People were actually shooting from cover. You don't do that in Battlefield anymore. Like, you just turn a corner and throw a grenade. It's going to get a kill, because no one's crazy enough to stand still. So when before the Titans had grenades, before Battlefield 2142 had unlocks, it was the coolest Battlefield I've ever played. Oh yeah, and there was none of that Levolution bullshit. But Levolution was a great feature, says Silver. I'm going to disagree with you there. For one reason, Levolution, sorry, for people who don't know what I'm describing, I'm describing terrain deformation, or more specifically, building and structure deformation via explosives. It was a feature, horribly named in my opinion, which basically meant destructible terrain. That's not Levolution. Levolution is when the map would change entirely halfway through. Oh really? Am I mixing things up, Silver? Okay, I apologise. I will correct my term. Not Levolution then, but heavily destructible and deformable terrain. The problem with the destructible terrain is that the maps would often be not designed for it, which meant that what happened was, if you played Wake Island or Sharkey Peninsula in Battlefield 2 is this map that features multiple conquest points, starting from the left side where there's an urban open environment to the right side where there's a television station. In the middle of Sharkey Peninsula is a construction site ringed by this metal fence. The construction site is quite tall. Now, the construction site is infantry heaven back in Battlefield 2. Why? Because the tanks can't shoot through the fence. Not only can their shells not go through the fence, they can't drive through the fence. It's indestructible. Meaning that if you want to take the middle part of the conquest point, the middle construction site, you have to attack it with infantry. You have to go in boots on the ground. Alternatively, get control of the attack helicopter and spray down on top of the roof and then go in with infantry. The point is, tanks, no, you can't bring them in. It's a no tank zone, which greatly changes the because obviously, you know, the other points on the surrounding peripheries are mostly tank zones. So there's this sudden, like, ooh, this is interesting. You can't get through the fence. One of the battlefields brings it back. Now you can destroy the fence. Just get a tank, drive in, take the point. I'm like, oh my god. And then I thought, wait a minute. Does that mean every point can be taken by a tank? Almost. I mean, the TV station, you're vulnerable from C4 from above. Battlefield Bad Company 2 was peak and had destructible structures. I'm going to say something heretical. It was fun, but somehow it always felt extremely limited. The Bad Company versions of Battlefield. It almost felt like it was half a game. Mainly because it always felt like the maps were holding themselves back. They were doing the special Battlefield Special Forces thing, where they were making them tighter and more intimate. But in doing that, you have fewer parts, which means fewer situations occurring, which means they got a bit samey kind of quickly, in my opinion. And the maps would always kind of go the same way. Always a contrarian? Well, not. I'm trying to be... It is. Don't get me wrong, Frizzlefoot. It was fun, and I did enjoy it. But sorry, there was another reason. Ugh, sorry, I'm on my hobby horse. I'm aware of this. I have no evidence for what I'm about to say. I'm purely going to speculate. But I'm willing to bet you money that at some point, circa 2000 whenever, there was a high-level conversation within EA. And that conversation went something like this. Hey, that Call of Duty series, they're our main competitors, right? Yeah, definitely. We should do what they're doing. We should start implementing more of what Call of Duty are doing. Well, what are Call of Duty doing? Well, at the time, Call of Duty are particularly famous for expansive, highly cinematic single-player campaigns. Well, is that what Battlefield players want? Who cares? Let's put it in. Let's try and take a market share from Call of Duty. Basically, my point is, all of a sudden, circa like Battlefield 3, we started getting single player in Battlefield. The exclusively multiplayer game suddenly had a single player campaign? Oh yeah, things like Metro as well. It sounds weird to, you know, call out just a single bloody map, but the fact that so many official rotations had large-scale Metro, which consisted of infantry fighting in tunnels, without even featuring, on the medium and small versions of the map, not the large version, but which didn't even feature the vehicles, which are your signature element of your franchise? Because I think there was a high-level strategic decision to make it more like COD. And I feel that Bad Company and Bad Company 2 were kind of a sort of through line for that. And it drained resources away from what I think mattered in Battlefield, which is the multiplayer. Yeah, wasn't there there was like Battlefield Hardline. I think that was the moment where I think that's the moment where everybody noticed, wasn't it? Everyone went, what the fuck is this game? I can't remember exactly why, but yeah, I seem to remember that. That was a moment where the whole community kind of woke up a little bit and went, what the fuck are you doing? Never heard my opinion on Battlefield 4. Oh, don't trigger a rant. Please don't trigger a rant, Car Crusher. I fucking loathed Battlefield 4. Absolutely loathed it. Oh, Battlefield 4 was broken. I'm sorry, it was broken for like a year after its release. That is a fuck up of a monumental level. And I'm sorry, as someone who has worked in software development for 11 years, I am in a good position to tell you, you've done fucked up. I'm sorry. If I were on that development team, I would dress you down and say, what the fuck are you doing? I played Battlefield 1942 and then pretty much every single iteration afterwards. And now it's just this thing, it's just this flashy mess with just flashy on the screen with fucking stuck in corridors in something like fucking Metro. And then fucking buildings coming down, they call it Levolution. The most fucking... It's stupid. It's all stupid. Yeah, and then they had this ridiculous idea to try and compete with Call of Duty by sticking on a single player that no one gave a shit about. Just give people... I'm fed up with developers just not knowing how to develop. Just give your audience what they fucking want. Stop trying to reinvent the wheel every year. Just give the audience what they want. Having said all this, don't you think Battlefield 3 had a really good campaign and Bad Company 1 and 2? Well, You will not be surprised when I say this. I never fucking touched them. The idea of playing single-player Battlefield to me is fucking heresy. I'm not touching single-player in Battlefield. I don't play Battlefield for single-player. I'm not there to shoot NPCs. I'm there to shoot fucking noobs. I'm the motherfucker who's sneaking up behind you with the C4, wiggling it and tricking you to getting out of your tank. Then I'm getting in that tank and killing you, your friend, 10 people next to him. Then I'm moving to the road on Operation Firestorm and I'm shelling the shit out of your airfield because I know exactly where to aim on that mountain to make sure the shells land on your jets. I played a little bit of Battlefield. I played a little bit of Battlefield.